Okay, so now that we had all the federal updates and we're going to get on to our legislative breakfast. But right before that, really quick, because then I'm going to turn it over to Jim. I do want to just make sure that everybody knows about our advocacy days. I think every one of you have already registered for that. We've got at least 80 people that will be there, and I just want to say thank you to every single one of you that are on involved in this call, that are taking interest. If you haven't been a part of the advocacy before, this shows a huge amount of support for South Carolina, and our community is growing, and we really, really appreciate that. So I do want to just throw that out there and say thank you for that. So again, our advocacy days, we will have our next meeting call, which we do this every month, but we do it by virtual call. I mean, by phone call, but I kind of like the virtual thing too, but it kind of gives everybody a quick, easy way to, hop on. It'll be our next call for the South Carolina Coalition will also be on its regular date, but it's going to be the same thing. We'll have our updates, but then we're going to be training, a quick training for our advocacy days, because we do have training on Tuesday night for advocacy as well. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there, make sure everybody was aware of advocacy days. So I'm going to turn this over to Jim. Well, actually, let's do this if we can. We're going to go through all the logistics and stuff, but if we can, before I pull up the PowerPoint, Matt and Adam, I would like for you to give the group something that we're going to talk about just very briefly is every single one of you that is going to be at the breakfast need to have in the back of your mind your 2-second, 2-minute elevator speech for our breakfast, that you were kind of talking about it now, kind of thinking about it, because as we go through our training and you get the bigger picture of what's happening, you're going to have a book in hand that's going to, if you don't know who your legislators are, your senator and your representatives, we're going to give you a book. You're going to have their picture to the best of our ability of what they give us. When people come through their line, you're going to be looking to see if your state legislator or representative is there. If they are there, this is your opportunity to thank them. Jim's going to go over this in a little bit and stuff like that, or to meet somebody else. And everybody kind of has these little places that you're going to be and what we're doing. But in all honesty, you'll want to talk to anybody and everybody that you can, staffers, whoever. And because they are coming for breakfast. They don't want to have a 20-minute conversation possibly with you, unless they get into that and you're sitting with them, they're really, really enjoying that. But we do want to make sure that they know who we are, why we're here, and that we appreciate them. But I thought maybe if you guys can give us first, before we get into the roots of all the logistics, just a couple of some key notes of what you think in passing this legislation as well, what people can be kind of putting together now before next Wednesday, that they kind of have already planned, that if I see somebody and I say hello and welcome, and then they say, hey, how are you? Boom, you're going to hit them with what you're going to do. Can you give us a little bit of that and help us with that? I'll start with Matt first, I guess, since you're on my left.
Yeah, Sue, if you don't mind, I made like two quick slides as like a
Yeah,
visual, if I can share that super quick.
absolutely.
I was playing around with slideshow today.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Oh, geez. Let me actually share it. Sorry. There we go. So I just made this super quick just because I want to get back into the gear of things too. I think sometimes we can get so used to all these different points, right? And it kind of gave me an idea to kind of talk about like when we're in a room with a bunch of legislators, what should we be on the lookout for, and what are some like couple key points to think about when you're connecting with your legislator. So super quick, and I'm not going to go over the logistics on these because Jim and Sue will go through that, but I really want to just drive home a couple of things. So when someone comes in, you always want to look for a pin or a badge, right? But no matter who they are, now that I've been to the legislative breakfast, I understand kind of how it goes. It doesn't necessarily matter who they are. You want to know who they are and what they do. But no matter what, anyone in that capital could have a connection and a sway that we could not even, possibly think of. So while you're always looking for a legislator or a staffer who are typically better to talk to in many instances because they'll keep those things in, you have around 60 seconds to 5 minutes, I don't know, it depends, to make an impact. With each individual person. And I only put this here. This is a picture of me from a few years ago at my old job in New York State. Just because you'll see a staffer, They may look incredibly young because, again, they are. And two, you'll never know what connection that they have, right? They could have a bleeding disorder. They're just normal people, and you want to approach that conversation leveling with them just as a person. So, what are some key things to remember, right? The first off being that now 26 states, conservative states, liberal states, no matter who you talk about it, have passed the same legislation that is in South Carolina. The very same. Over half the states in the country have passed this. We're waiting on the New Jersey governor to sign, so I can't celebrate yet, but you can say it's 25, almost 26. The fact is, the majority of the country or the majority of states in this country have acted on this issue. And South Carolina has been considering this issue for multiple sessions now. It's time for them to act, right? And think about the following things. All of South Carolina marketplace plans have accumulator language in them. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're acting on it, but any consumer who is on the ACA marketplace is exposed to the risk of accumulators. And what does that mean? That can mean $10,000 that you owe every January, 20,000 for a family, right? Or 21,200. Health insurance today is more expensive than ever. Healthcare is more expensive than ever, right? The cost of living in general is more expensive than ever. All we want to do is keep healthy, right? And who can afford in today's world thousands of dollars every January for insurance companies to double dip? So think about the bottom line of being, what does access mean to you? What does that affordability of healthcare access mean to you? And how does it help you be a contributing member of your community? And tie those things to that. So just some final tips, being flexible, keep that connection going. But I think you really want to tie it to how does this impact you as a member of the community and what are those things that you do in the community and the affordability of health insurance and health care in general. Most of the country has done this. It's time for South Carolina to act too.
Very nice. Thank you.
Hey,
Adam.
Sue.
Yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry.
Yeah, Tiffany.
Are you going to share this recording with us so that we have access to those little tip slides and everything?
I am. That's why I'm recording it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, Adam, what do you got there? Help us
Awesome.
out here.
Yeah, so so I don't have any slides.
It's
Probably
okay.
at the benefit of everyone everyone here. But I think, like Matt said, you never know who you're going to talk to. There's something that sticks out to me from way back when I interned in the Minnesota Senate. He was a Republican lawmaker, and he gave a talk to our group of fresh interns, and he had given a quote from when he first got started in the Minnesota Senate. And he had said, "There's the old saying, it doesn't matter what you know, it matters who you know." And then he said, "My mentor told me that the extension of that is, it doesn't matter who you know, uh, what matters is who knows you, right?" So, can you make a lasting impression with the person that you go in and talk to so that after you leave that office, they remember that conversation? If you reach out to them a couple months later or a year later or however long it is, they remember who you were and what that conversation was about. So I just want to mention that. I think trying to think of something that's impactful is really important. I personally have had a copay accumulator in a policy before, and so I'll give just an example of how I have framed it, and just some potential suggestions if you want to. I always try to talk about what the day-to-day impacts to my life are, right? So I mentioned when I got hit with a copay accumulator, and I'm very vulnerable with offices. I tell them I went to go renew my medication, was told I would needed to pay a multi-thousand-dollar bill, and spent 4 hours on the phone breaking down with an insurance representative because I wasn't going to be able to get my medication that saves my life on a day-to-day basis. I tell lawmakers I spent 6 months not being afraid to walk my dog, being
Right.
afraid to go to the grocery store, being worried that any minor, incident was going to cause me to have a major bleeding episode. A lot of legislators, when they hear about something like a copay accumulator, like we deal with this day in and day out, right? It's just it's our everyday life. But Most legislators, if they've ever heard of hemophilia or bleeding disorder, it's been a 60-second sound bite, or they read it in a textbook in high school. And they think that, most of the people who are getting, copay assistance, they're going to pick up a bottle of pills at CVS,
Right.
right? And they don't understand this is an injectable medication. It's not an optional thing for me to take. If I don't take it, I could end up in the ER. I could end up with, life-threatening bleeding episodes. And so I think that this is just, my personal perspective. Driving home, what happens if you go without medication is super, super important. A lot of legislators, they see this as well. The government is gonna, we don't want to intervene in what businesses are doing. Rising tide lifts all ships. I've made the analogy that's great if you have a boat. Um, we need to make sure that patients have their own ship, right? And so, I've made a comment like you could say this legislation would protect financially smart patients and make sure that they're able to access resources that they're supposed to be able to. And you can, if you want, you can say it saves patients from having to use state assistance. It saves patients from costing the taxpayers money when they go to the ER. You can use those talking points if maybe you find someone who is more interested in kind of those business and cost sides of things. One thing that I would say too, and take this with a grain of salt, it's again just a suggestion, but I think it's important to talk about the cost of the medication, but I would caution people to not go too far down that road, because you end up, and I've encountered this with legislative offices, you end up down a rabbit hole of like, how do we regulate drug pricing instead of how do we get the family out of the burning house, and then we deal with figuring out why the fire started, right? Get the patients the assistance that they need. If you want to have those conversations about drug pricing, that's for another time, right? And so that's why, like I said, I really try and drive home the real like lived experiences. And I think too, it's important to do that because that's the most real for all of us. Myself, Matt, Sue probably are very familiar with like looking at a lot of complex, policy documents and information. But I think what really gets legislators and staff over on your side is just hearing somebody who's living their day-to-day life and how that compares with what they're going through, and something that makes them feel like they need to make a change and help people out. So I would just offer those thoughts. I'm always, open if people want to reach out and run ideas by me, or, get additional questions answered, in terms of like best ways to engage and talk about these things. But I hope that was helpful and gives some ideas for everyone.
Thanks, Adam. And in South Carolina, it's funny, some of the hard to get on our side. They do talk about the drug pricing. They do talk about insurance companies. Now the biggest thing today was insurance companies are going to leave because, if we have all these things happen, they're all going to leave the state. Well, that they're not going to leave the state. But those are some of those talking points, and somehow we just got to pull it right back to your experience and what it's like. So those are great points. So thank you very much. And Renita, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to find out is the focus going to be about accumulating adjuster? Is that going to be the focus of talking to
Yes.
any of these legislators? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
we're going to talk
So,
about kind of the mission of the day, but the number one is we want them to know who we are. That's our number one, what bleeding disorders are, what the rare community, the difficulties the rare community has accessing medication, and the importance of having life-saving medication. So that's and our bill. So you want them to know who you are, what we do, and what we're asking, but we are asking for them to, we're thanking them for is co-signing, but we're asking for their support if they have not. So that is the mission, the underlying mission of the day. But Jim will go into that a little bit more. But I'm going to go ahead and let me pull up his slides, our slides, and we'll go through some of the logistics of what we're doing. Let's see. And let's see if that gets to the slideshow. There we go. So I'm going to turn over to Jim. Obviously, This is our breakfast, and the date. So obviously this is a picture, so you can see the room just to give you a little bit of information. This was a picture we want to make sure that we have after it, but it's just a big, big room. They're going to come in on different sides, and like I said, I'll let Jim take over, and I'll be quiet and let him talk about that. So go ahead, Jim. But this is kind of
You
the
guys. Yeah, so I know a lot of you have done the breakfast before. We actually have a lot more people there this year, so that's fantastic. So for everybody coming in the night before that Tuesday, we're going to meet at the hotel at 7 o'clock, and the hotel is at the Hilton Columbia Center, which is on Senate Street. Obviously, you see the address. So we're going to be checking in the night before, meet up around 7 o'clock, answer any questions. Did I just see somebody's hand get raised? Did I? Okay,
I can't
saw a
see.
hand.
I
Yeah.
was celebrating because there were more people coming. It was a clap.
Oh, okay, cool, awesome. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we have about
So
40 people, by the way, 40 of our
Yeah.
own members, plus several other disease state individuals. I had to up our food, so we're good to go.
and the food's great. So like we'll get there though. So obviously some of the logistics the next day, you can check out before going to the Capitol. You want to if you're self parking, put your car onto your room. The people who have rooms are, me, Sue, Samantha, Candy, Carrie, Cassandra, Whitney, Mara, and Taylor. Gas and parking cards for travelers attending will be given out at the breakfast after. So probably at the end, and all attendees can park at the garage for the whole day. If you've been there before, it's the garage attached to the Hilton, so it's fairly easy to get in and out of there. So the breakfast is going to be from 8 to 10. Now, Sue and I usually head over at like 6 o'clock in the morning to start to set up the room, to let Lizard's Thicket into the room, and then to start putting everything together. And so I know Rick will be, Sue, correct me if I'm wrong, Rick's going to meet everybody around 7:15 in the lobby and start walking over.
So if everybody that's coming, whether you're staying or not, the easiest way to do this is to seriously go to that hotel, go ahead and park in the parking garage. And like Jim said, if you're staying the night, you're just going to leave their car in there. You're just going to check out of the hotel, but keep your car there. If we meet at about 7:15 in the lobby, and if you're running late, just text me we'll figure that out. Text me, text Jim, hey, I'm running late, and then go ahead and get over to the block building yourself. However, if we all meet in the lobby about 7:15, by 7:30, we're going to walk as a group, just like we kind of do with legislative days, and walk over together and get you all into the House building so you know where you are. But we won't be waiting for people. So if you're running late because you're driving in, something happens, then you're just going to have to get there by yourself. However, go ahead and park in that parking garage. And then at the breakfast, I will give everybody a $25 or whatever. I've got different levels for how far you're driving, gas card or whatever, a Visa card. So you can pay to get out of the garage. I think it's $10 or something for the day, but that's where you park. It's the easiest, so we can go over and then come back. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Okay. So obviously, we've been to the blocked House office building so many times over, I feel like the last 15 years, but it's the House building. I'm going to show you on a map of the Capitol complex. We're on the first floor, so we're in room 112. There's 2 entrances to the room, so you'll be very good. If you see where the State House is right here, obviously the block building is right in the back. It's across from the Senate building, which is the Marion Gressett building. Here's the statue of Strom Thurmond right around here. And then so the block building is facing the main street down here. So you should be able to, there's Assembly Street, and this is one of the cross streets. We've been there so many times, but if you're looking at the Capitol, if you're standing here looking directly at the Capitol, it's going to be on your left-hand side, the block building. So for those of your first time, make sure you try to get there on time so you can walk over. So it's going to be catered by Lizard's Thicket. So from 6:30 to 8, we'll be doing the setup in the room. It begins at 8 o'clock. Now, who comes to this? Obviously, this is going to be one of the first. This is the first breakfast of the year, so people are going to, I'm sure by like May they're tired of all these breakfasts, but this is one of the first ones. So people will be coming in for breakfast. The staff, and not just the legislative staff, but a lot of the cops and the sergeant at arms, and they'll come through. Members of the House of Representatives, members of the Senate. One of the first people through every year is Senator Alexander, who's a good friend of our communities. So this is your opportunity to talk to people. It's a little slower from about 8 to 8:30. It's slow, so you can have more of an opportunity to talk to people. We'll have people when they enter both sides of the room. There'll be check-ins. So people will be having people sign in. So that's the first thing, and then you'll be basically wanting to talk to people around 8:30 to 8:45. The rush starts, and you'll see longer lines. So we have to get more people through. There'll just be a lot more people there from about 8:30, 8:45 on to about 9:30. At 9 o'clock we're going to start a quick program where we're going to have legislators and patients talk about obviously our issue and the bills, and the accumulator bills. So it's very important that at 9 o'clock everything gets a little quiet. And although if you still see some people in, still greet them and have them come in. We'll have the program with the speakers kind of ends around hopefully about 9:30, and then there'll be the last people coming through getting their breakfast. You're going to see a lot of the members sit down and eat breakfast there. So this is a great opportunity for the young people. I know Danny Shelton and his sisters are great at this, and Noah and his sisters are great at this, sitting down with the members and talking to them, telling them their story and how they live with a bleeding disorder. And then around 10 o'clock, cleanup begins. And then I'm working on making meetings for everybody for the afterwards. If you can stay around. If you can't stay around, that's fine. Obviously, the House goes in session at 10, so we can go up to the House chamber, between the House and the Senate, and call some representatives off the floor and talk to them. And then we can do the same thing when the Senate comes in. Obviously, we have most of the House as co-sponsors on our bill, so we are focusing on a lot of senators. We'd love to get half the Senate as co-sponsor. I will say the most important thing that you want to do is make sure you greet if you can, your representative. Make sure that either they're a co-sponsor or, and I think it's very important, making sure they're still with us. Now, we've sent letters to all the members of all of our co-sponsors, asking them to stick with us. That's something that Carla Schussler's, our sponsor, wants us to do. But we have to, so even if the person's a co-sponsor, we got to say to them, hey, we need your help still. As my friend Whitney Galloway says, are you prepared to, lead us, not just be a co-sponsor, but, lead us on this and help us. And so it's very important when you're meeting with some of the offices that even if they are supportive, that, you ask them to stick with us, because the insurance companies are not nice people. I mean, I hate to say that, and I know that's tough. They want this dead, and they're giving a lot of money to the Republican Party and to the Democrats to kill this bill. when Carlos Schuessler went to see the speaker about trying to move this, his line was, well, you know, Blue Cross gives an awful lot of money to the caucus. That's what they cared about. I mean, I hate to say that, but that's, you know, and so when he saw the co-sponsor list, he goes, "Oh, no, no, no. The House wants it seems like the majority of the House wants this. We should move this." But his first instinct and inclination was where the campaign contributions were coming from. So that's something we're up against. And they want people to start coming off the bill. So it's very important that even if this person's a co-sponsor, you talk to them and say, you need to stick with us. And so Mark Smith, who's running for Congress in the first district, he took his name off the bill because, you know, he wants Blue Cross to help him. So I mean, it's a big deal.
Jim, let me just iterate something too. We need to bring the human side of this to each and every one of the legislators. They have to understand we are talking about human people and human lives. And so when you can speak and you can talk to them about your story or what it means for you to live with your bleeding disorder, and that when you can't access it, we are talking for people life and death, and we are talking about quality of life. And I think we need to bring that human side back to the table every single time we talk. We've got to get into their hearts of that we need their help, that we're talking about people's lives and children's lives. And we'll probably have all the kids up at, you know, as we start to work on this, I'll probably say, hey, could you guys bring your kids, or the kids stand with us up at the podium? Because I want them to see the human people that this bill is causing stress for, and or if they're delaying treatment or they can't get their medication, we're talking life and death. So while they're talking insurance and they're talking, you know, money, we're talking people's lives. So hopefully we can keep that in mind and change their minds, like Jim said.
And it's and a lot, everybody's sticking, like right now people are sticking with us, but it's really important that when you have an opportunity to talk to them about the issue, that you ask them to you know, remain with us. I got a nice email from Spencer Wetmore from Charleston, who's like, I can't be there, but I support you 100% and I'm still with you. Our sponsor is just concerned that Blue Cross is spreading rumors, and we're working on that. We're going to film Colette Colianos, who's the national expert on these issues, with Carla Schuessler, Carla asking questions and Colette answering them, and clearing up this and getting this all out to the offices. But you know, it's up to them. Another, I think, important line that's going through right now is everybody's talking about affordability, and I think it's important that, you know, people can't afford their premiums, let alone their cost sharing, and they have to turn to patient assistance programs. These tax credits are expired. That's putting even more pressure on patients who need this assistance. And you cannot allow these insurance companies to prevent patients from getting this assistance and having it count towards their out-of-pocket levels. And so I think that's an important line now too, is how much this is. So I will say this, moving forward, there's going to be stations. There's 2 stations. There's going to be 2 check-in tables on either side of the room, and we're going to ask patient advocates to be there to sign people in. It's very important we know who's there so that we can follow up with the members of the legislature and the senators. There's going to be greeters that after people sign in, that they're in line getting their food, you're talking with them. And then there we have what we call our goodbye greeters as people exit the room, making sure that they have their information about the bills and thanking them for coming. There's a station for that. They'll make sure they have our bill information, flyers, and you thank them for their support. It's very important, you know, that we make sure we touch as many people as we can. Some people are going to be really wonderful. Some people are going to be like, yeah, leave me alone. I'm eating my breakfast. But, it's important that we talk to everybody. I know Sue and I will be, and a lot of will be, making sure we talk to all the members. Drew will be there. So I know we've done a fantastic job in the past. So we just have to step it up. And then afterwards, we're going to grab people off the floors and then or have appointments. And so we'll go from there.
And just let me reiterate a little bit to Jim on this. So I'm just going to read off some names, but I'll bring it. You guys are going to be fluid all day. So if I say, hey, Jenny, I want you at the sign-in table, that doesn't mean you're going to have to stay there the whole entire day. You may get pulled away and get talking to somebody else. When you're eating breakfast, you want to make sure that somebody is covering you. So if everybody kind of knows all the positions, kind of where they're at, but where we will start with, we've got Jenny, Samantha, Marilyn, and Kristen Shelton at the sign-in table, and your children are there as well. So when they're coming in, one thing we also got to remember is the line can get really long. We don't want them waiting in a line to sign in because that's annoying. So I've got like 10 sheets on each side of the room. So if you see that there's people and they're like waiting in line, you take a nut, you say, hey, come over here, just sign right over here. And then you have them go ahead and sign in on another sheet. If we've got 5 different sheets going, that's no problem because we don't want them lining up in the hallway because they have to sign into our breakfast. I don't know that everybody makes everybody sign in, but we like to do that so we can follow up with them. But we got to get them through that sign in and then they're in line for their breakfast as well. And on either side of the room, you'll see our brochures and things like that. So, there's an opportunity to say, do you know what a bleeding disorder is? Here's some information. Sometimes people really want that information of, who we are and what we're doing. So if I've got Jenny and Samantha and Marilyn and Kristen as check-in, we've also got Whitney and Carrie and your family, Candy Mitchum and your family, Cassandra, and I think Michael's not coming, or Michael's coming. I can't remember. Cassandra, you guys are helping greeting and giving the education, but really all of you at that area are doing the same thing. And like Jim said, there's 2 different sides that they can come in on. So you're going to make sure that if you're coming in on the other side, you can switch sides and you'll see as we get in there. And if we're there early, if everybody's there, at 7:45 before anybody really starts coming in, we can say, here's your job, here's your spot. Because I know if we're just talking right now, you're probably going, I don't understand what I'm doing. And we will work that on the fly because we're good at that. And you guys are really good at that. And then, as I said, the greeters, when they leave the room, right now I have Taylor, Renita, Annette, Bonnie Pfeiffer and Tiffany. You guys are the goodbyes, and your thing is to make sure that you thank them enormously for being here, for the work that they do. That's another thing we want to make sure is that we let them know these are people like your husbands, your mothers that are just regular people in South Carolina. They put their pants on like we do every day. They take their kids off to school, but they are working another job supporting the people in South Carolina. So we want to thank them and we want to let them know that we are honored to be able to have the first breakfast, that we're super honored, which we are, and honored to have the funding to be able to do that. And we thank them, but we really need their help and we're asking for their help. So you're going to be the people that are honing it in, thanking them, hoping they enjoyed their breakfast. And then I've got flyers that are 2 different flyers. One that has a big F on it is what South Carolina is rated with the AIDS Institute, because all of our marketplace plans have a accumulator, so we get an F for healthcare in South Carolina. So there'll be 2 different flyers, and you're just going to fold that in half and kind of just slip it to them and say, please help support us. Let us know what we can do to help you, that kind of stuff. So you guys have got a very big role as well to kind of really hone that in on them as before they walk out the door. And with your children, with Ari and with Lincoln and stuff like that, that's going to be really important for you guys. So again, you can switch around. You can, if you've got to eat, you can say, hey, can you kind of take my place here? It's just because we put you somewhere doesn't mean that's where you have to be, but we want to start with some people knowing where they're going. So I'll have that written out on a little piece of paper if you forgot, but just kind of letting you know that. Does anybody have any questions on that part of it before Jim continues on kind of what we're doing? Just, I can't see anything, so just unmute yourself if you have any questions right at the moment. Okay, I guess not. All right, so let's go to the next slide, Jim.
Okay, so where do we go from here? What's going on? So in the House of Representatives, what do we have to do to get this bill passed? There's going to be another hearing, um, and in the insurance subcommittee. So it's also suggesting we need to get a vote basically in the House and get a vote in committee. So what we're going to be doing is working with the chairman for that second hearing and trying to secure a markup vote. That's really what we have. We have 110 co-sponsors. Now we just have to you know we need to get the bill moving through the House. We have the co-sponsors. We've had the hearing. Now we have to put pressure on the chairman of the subcommittee to quickly hold another hearing and then have a vote. That's important. So that's one of the things that, again, when you're talking that, we need to get this bill passed, we have to have some sense of urgency, because if it doesn't pass, if we don't start getting movement on it, it's not going to pass this legislative session, which ends in May. Drew, is there anything you want to say about that? Is Drew still with us? No, he's not. Okay. So then our next thing is really working on getting more co-sponsors in the Senate. We have a good number of them, but our aim is for 25. That's 24 is half the Senate, and so it's 25. We're rounding up. It's there's 46 senators, so 23 is half the Senate, and then we get a couple of more. That would really start putting pressure on the Senate to start moving the bill. We have a number of we have about 7 co-sponsors from the committee. That's a big deal. We've worked very hard to get that. And so, it's important that, I've invited all the senators. I've talked to several offices that this is on their schedule. Senator Hutto, Senator Reichenbach, a lot of these guys who are on the subcommittee or on the committee, we have to get them to sign on to the bill. That's the only way the chairman is going to bring this up, is if they kind of force him into it. He's not going to do it. Ronnie Cromer isn't going to do it because he likes us and thinks we're great people.
Hey, Jim, I know that this might be a dumb question, but I know that Gambrell, I'm sorry.
I was just joking with you. What's up?
Gambrell is is he's still the co-sponsor, right, on the Senate?
He's the sponsor in the House. In the
so
Senate,
do we
yes.
we don't have any other senators or
we have 14 senators who co-sponsor.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that part. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We have 14. So we have to get.
writing notes down. I know that you said 46 and then the goal is 25, but I didn't hear the 14. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So we only have 10 more to go. If we can get 10 more quickly, even at the breakfast or whatever, we'll be cruising here. And we just need to have that kind of a thought process, is we got to get more senators.
That's going to pressure them. That's the only way we're gonna get this. We have to start working on a 2-track system and start pushing this bill in each house and have somebody pass it and then move it on to the other chamber. I mean, that's how we're going to get this done. So everybody who's going to be with us, it's extremely important. Look at we can send you the link of what the legislators look like. So you can start memorizing faces to see who's there. But everybody here is very important, and we need that help. Like I said, Sue and I are going to be running around the room talking with everybody we can talk with. But here's a great, if Gary Brewer, I know that's Samantha's. I kind of figured out whose district after all this time. So I'm going to grab Samantha and bring them over and have them talk and make sure that Samantha says, we need you to stick with us. And then, we're walking into an election year, so we're going to want to keep their constituents happy also. So it's very important that in my role is introducing you. If you don't know who your representative is, that we get you there, and we start. You meet your legislators too, to make sure they know how important this is to you.
So, Jim, this is Renita. I got a quick question. So,
Yes, Renita.
are you going to be making sure we know who they are before we get there, or when are we gonna?
Well, I'll send you the link. I know Tommy Pope's yours. I mean, you all should know who your legislators are. I mean, you guys vote for them. So I can send you the link to look them up. You can look them up and see what they look like. Tommy Pope gets us the room. And he's a co-sponsor. I don't know if he's come to the breakfast or not. I know Cammie, his aide, comes.
Okay.
And Renita, I've asked for Senator Clymer to meet with you. Hopefully he'll come to the breakfast.
Okay.
But I
Yeah,
just think
I know
everybody
Pope.
should
I know him. I know him personally.
Okay.
I know him. So if his
Sounds good.
yeah, if his you said his aide, if she comes, I'll make sure I connect with her.
She's a
But
good
I mean,
friend
he's
of ours,
already
Cammie.
signed on, right? He's already signed on.
Yes. Again, yes, and we want him to stay signed on
Okay.
and stick with us and help
Okay.
us get a vote.
Okay.
He's president pro tem of he's speaker pro tem, so he's a perfect person. We need to ask for his help to
Mhm.
get this to the floor.
Right. Okay. Got you. Thank you.
Even if somebody signed on, they can still do more for us and help. Call the speaker. I want to call the chairman. We want to vote. We want to, we want our day in court here on the floor of the House. If this bill was put on the floor of the House, it would pass almost unanimously.
We got to get
And
it.
this is Jenny. I'll be around since I'm in town and stick around. So if anybody's uncomfortable and Jim and Sue can't assist you, y'all are more than welcome to have my number. And there was one other thing I was going to tell y'all, and I'll remember that at 2:00 in the morning, and not
That's
now.
right.
So
You guys have got this. You all,
Yeah.
every single one of you that is part of, that's on this call, you've got this. I will promise you, you will know what you're doing, and just grab somebody with you to, walk over, whatever. But I have full faith and confidence in you. You'll see how easy it is to just say thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for, making an impact on South Carolinians. Thank you for helping us. Thank you for, doing what you can do. And thank you for listening to my story. And thank you for doing the job that you do. I think that's important. You just say some of those things and they get to see your kids, or they get to see your story, or hear a little bit about you and how compassionate and how wonderful our advocates are. Hands down, we have no problem. We just gotta push a little harder this year. And like Jim said, we're going to do or die. Our bill will die. And if we can't get it with as much work as we've done, with as much people that we have sponsored, if we can't get it done this year, I don't think that we can get it done ever. And we're going to have to probably move on to something else in some other way to help the community. But I have full faith and confidence in y'all. But just I'll keep this up just a minute. Just, I know that we're running a little late. Want to get you guys back to your families. But these are just some of our key talking points that we talked about. And I think the affordability, because of everything that has happened, I think that will possibly help to our advantage, that people today 100% can't afford these high costs that they're paying, and they have to rely on patient assistance if they need life-saving medications that have no generic options. There are no other things that we can do. There are no other options. This is essential to our people's lives. And if they can't afford it, they're going to go to the emergency rooms, because you can't have and the one other thing to make sure that you tell people is the pain. You cannot have a bleeding disorder, have a muscle bleed or knee bleed or something, and not get treated and not go somewhere. You have to have medication. You have to have treatment, because the pain is excruciating. There is nothing you can do about that. The pain is excruciating. And for those of you that may have not, if you've had such great treatment and your kids have never seen that, it is excruciating when you have that kind of pain. And so we need them to understand that they're going to go to the emergency room. They're going to take up the cost at the emergency rooms. And, our emergency rooms are going to have a lot of problem paying those bills that never get paid. So just kind of keep this in mind. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and close this now. And we'll finish up with it. Go ahead and get a few people.
I guess she froze up.
Oh, sorry. Something
You're
must
back
have happened.
now.
Yeah. I saw that we were stuck, but I have full faith in you guys. Last year when we did the breakfast, we had like maybe 25. And then when we were done, we had like, I don't know if we did it. And I know that we can do it because your hearts are in this, and your lives and your children's lives and your husband's lives and your loved ones' lives depend upon this and us getting this done this year. Like I said, we'll send this out to y'all. Look up, you guys know on our website, you just can look up who your legislator is, get his face, get his pictures, but I will have books for you all to look at, and you can make sure that you know who they are, and then keep that book for the rest of our legislative sessions. But you guys have got this, and I can't tell you how grateful I am and how proud I am, honestly, of all of you.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
I know this is going to drive y'all crazy, but I'm going to say it every time. Ask anybody and everybody for their business card. They're normally 90% of the time their cell phone is on there. And when they leave that room and they're getting hit with 300 or 400 other bills that they've got, if you were able to text them something you said that was funny, or have somebody else taking a picture of you while you're talking to them and text that to them, that is the only way I think I was able to keep Senator Garrett interested and get him on the bill, because I was able to text him 5 minutes before he went back on into the Senate floor that day. And I know it happened with other people, but get their business cards, and they love to give them out. So get their business cards.
Perfect.
I did put the House and the Senate member biography directories, the links in the chat.
Yeah.
So if you want to go look at who your members are, and so